coronavirus probably originated from a laboratory in Wuhan. Now, to restate, the researchers who concluded this were Chinese scientists who work for a Chinese university. And for that reason, understandably, they were concerned about the health implications for their own country of what they found. Their paper ended this way, quote, "Safety levels may need to be reinforced in high-risk biohazardous laboratories. Regulations may need to be taken to relocate these laboratories away from city centers and other densely populated places," end quote. As it happens, February 6th, which is the day that paper went online, was also the date of the first coronavirus death in this country. So the American media had every reason to pay attention to what the Chinese scientists had found, but they didn't.
Want to get it off your chest? Call the Dave Weinbaum Show. They accuse this show of being run by boobs. Well, let me tell you something about us boobs. We're real and we're spectacular. Want politics and fun sprinkled with a lot of laughs? You're in the right place. Heard in 50 states and 98 countries, we just put 11 years of radio excellence into the can. Now, in our 12th year, the Dave Weinbaum Show is on the air. You're going to hear about this for the rest of this show. And it'll be the story of the century. This is the worst mass murder since the Holocaust. And it involves the whole world. And if Dr. Li Meng Yan is right, and she was there and witnessed the Chinese army and the Chinese Communist Party with scientific evidence of them making this Frankenstein, her word, virus, and intentionally spreading it through the world, her allegation, then the people who have aided in the Communist Chinese Party's lies and censorship of people, well, like me, who have posed this as a possibility and were vilified by Facebook, Twitter, Google, and all social media they use as a platform to bash conservatives and back the communists all over the world and in the Dem Party specifically. The people who barred this story may have abetted and obstructed justice massively. And they must be brought to justice. We also need to know how people who made fortunes from doing the Chinese Communist Party's bidding have been in denial of China's culpability in this ongoing crime, as the deaths are close to 1 million worldwide, 200,000 in this country. This needs to be adjudicated so it doesn't happen again. Ever. Or am I wrong? Now, I don't want to implicate the Chinese people. Most of them have no choice but to obey. Or, in the case of Dr. Meng Yan, die. As she calls it, disappeared. But what did the abettors know, and when did they know it? Dupes or knowing accomplices? We're going to be talking about this a lot in this show. My name is Dave Weinbaum. I'm your radio talk show host. I'm here with the producer, J.P. Maxwell, and my lovely bride, Lisa Ann Stadauser-Weinbaum. Hi, J.P. How you doing?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. And Lisa Stadauser. Oh, my goodness. Is that for you or Lisa?
Both.
Oh, okay.
I got control over here. I can do whatever.
Oh, yeah, I know. He's got the controls. This is... I'm kind of at their mercy,
Oh, poor thing.
No, I don't know. I don't know if we have any callers, but I think we might. I have no idea who this is, JP, but I think he play his song, or he might get mad. He likes rock and roll.
Oh, I love rock and roll.
There you go. Sing along, JP. I mean, JP. You're getting me all mixed up, guys. It's a little early in my show to lose my mojo, We will rock you. We will rock you. Okay, listen. Before I forget, because I'm known to do this, I put little notes on my stuff. I want to wish a Shana Tova, that's a good and fruitful Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah. And this came from Shana Baklava, a friend from Israel who we've never met, but she's always listening, and thank you, Shana. I really appreciate that. All the way from Israel. We got a great show, and JJ, who is the 252-year-old, I almost said 152, but that was last century. It's all the last century and a half. But I want to introduce JJ Bradshaw, the 252-year-old man, older than this country itself. JJ, what is under that tinfoil hat of yours?
Dave, how's the new mixing board going?
So far, so good, we think. I don't know. This is the first day with it. How did you know I had that?
Oh, I saw a picture of it on Facebook, and what an upgrade from what you had. Hooray, hooray.
Hooray, hooray. It looks like just a lot of more buttons, but we'll let you know. Right now, it seems to be working. Knock on Formica, whatever I'm on here. But I think we're doing okay.
I'll tell you, your Facebook feed is going fine. So that's
good news. That's great news. All right, great.
Okay. Normally, I have 4 or 5 things that get under my skin, but there were only 2 this week, mainly because they were both so big. Trump's town hall with George Stephanopoulos on ABC.
Yeah.
Now, ABC is not Trump-friendly. George Stephanopoulos is anti-Trump. And you can tell by some of the questions. They were loaded. They were gotcha questions. The people in the audience, darn few who were social distancing, out of the litter, they had 2 people that had actually voted for Trump. And one of those was a critic. The deck was stacked against the man, and he came across so well, so presidential. He answered the questions with facts, not the normal political BS that you hear from his opponents. That thing blew me away. It blew me away to the point that I watched it the second time because I couldn't believe how well he did. Contrast that with Joe Biden, who can't put 10 words together and make a sentence out of them. How anyone could vote for the Bidens, I don't know. And, of course, Kamala Harris the other day said the Harris-Biden.
And it's not just that. Yeah, she said the Harris-Biden. No, she said the Harris administration with Joe Biden as president. And then he came on later. You'd think, well, maybe he was just trying to help her out. But he said the Harris-Biden administration. Joe Biden
that was on his teleprompter, and of course, it's all we can do to read it.
Yeah, but what you point out is the amazing contrast in a lot of areas between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Donald Trump seeks out these people. He talks to people who do books on him that aren't complimentary. He talks to Woodward. He does it intentionally because he wants to be able to face his critics and respond to them. And he does it, and who doesn't like that? He doesn't take crap from anybody. He will defend himself. Who doesn't want a president that is going to hide in a basement?
The man is so different from any president that we've ever had in the history of this nation. I can't imagine anyone not voting for him. Anybody that didn't see that Trump town hall ought to play it back. It's really rather well done. Now, the other thing, and this is possibly the most important thing in my lifetime, the Abraham Accords.
Yeah.
UAE, Bahrain.
Now, that's
Israel.
really putting it in perspective, because this is 252 years we're talking about here. It's not like 20 years, 30 years ago. This is 252 years. And we're talking about, this is biblical stuff. Go ahead, JJ. Sorry.
United States politicians have been dancing around the Israeli-Palestinian Arab situation for decades. And each of them has come out and told Israel, you guys need to back down. You guys need to give up land that you won in the 6-Day War. You guys need to do this. You guys need to do that. And they have always soft-pedaled the Arabs. Well, here comes Donald J. Trump. He's backed Israel. He's made the most powerful nation in the world an ally of Israel once again. Now, Arabs don't enter into contracts without something to gain. I think the UAE and Bahrain they see it as a benefit to them, not because they're great friends of Israel. They're not. These people have been enemies for years, for decades, for centuries. But there's something in it for them. That makes their esteem rise in the eyes of the United States of America. I think you're going to see some more Arab countries sign on to this because it is to their benefit as well. Now, the remarkable thing about this, besides the fact that Trump's managed to pull it off and none of the clowns before him have ever managed to pull it off, is that Israel Israel is rising in the Middle East in power and prestige like they've never done before. Now, if you remember, Bill Clinton and Yasser Arafat came close to a Middle East peace deal. Clinton gave Arafat everything he asked for, and Arafat walked away.
Yeah,
Why?
That was not just Clinton. That was Israel gave him everything he wanted. 97% of what he wanted, he got.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he walked away. Now, the beauty of what our president has managed to do is he went right around the Palestinians, made them a non-entity,
right?
Made them not relevant in any of these conversations. They're left holding the bag. Politically, that is one of the slickest moves I have ever seen. Now, a CNN commentator the other day, right after the announcement of this and the signing of these things, this deal, said, well, this actually started in the Obama administration. And I sat there and said, what? Yeah, this actually started in the Obama administration. All that Trump has managed to do is seal the deal. Well, to that, I say BS. My BS light started.
Well, here's what John Kerry said in 2016. I believe it was September of 2016. He said there can never, ever be a peace with the Arabs until the Palestinian peace takes place. Never, ever. In 2016.
Palestinian peace.
Yeah, and here's what I want to add this. I want to add this to your brilliant analysis. I want to add this. The reason that the Arabs now trust not just Israel but America is because Trump came out and ordered the killing of General Soleimani, who was in charge of basically all the terrorism that takes place in these Arab countries from Iran. They are scared to death of Iran. And this is a big deal for them, not just because they want peace, but because they want to be protected under this deal. So this is the brilliance of
they're not going to enter
Donald
into
Trump.
A deal unless there's something in it from them.
Yeah.
You see what the something is.
Well, that's another thing that I'm adding to your list. So your brilliant list, by the way.
Dave, this is the most amazing thing. And the fact that Trump has managed to pull this off, he did it quietly.
Yep.
Nobody knew what was going on until it was actually announced. That, too, is unusual because Washington leaks like a sieve.
It verifies the fact that he just doesn't have a son-in-law working for him. He's got a really smart guy. Kushner and Kushner's aide Berkowitz arranged this deal behind the scenes via the guidance of one Donald J. Trump.
Wonder what our diplomats are thinking about all of this, because apparently
they hate this. They hate this. The generals hate it. The generals hate it because he's stopping all the wars. So they don't get the big deals out of the plane manufacturers and the weapon manufacturers. That's why Trump is hated by the generals in the Pentagon and loved by the troops in the field, because why? He saves their lives. He's not concerned about the big corporations that make all the weapons. We make enough, but he's also concerned about the troops not being in wars that we don't need to be in.
Well, the generals and the manufacturers, the manufacturers have seen orders that are unusual for a peacetime nation. Well, what's Trump doing? He's stockpiling this stuff. He's training. Yeah, there's been a shortage of ammunition for training for soldiers for decades because we're using it all up in wars. Well, now these folks actually get to do live fire training instead of laser training. This is all good, and it just has astounded me, and I'm not easily astounded. This peace deal, I really want to hear what the rabbi has to say about it. I want to hear what Elon has to say about it.
And we're also going to be talking.
I think
this my list of people. I guess I gave them lifetime. But we got you. Great start. We got Elon is coming up. Or the rabbi's coming up at 9:30, and it's Rosh Hashanah in Israel. I hope he's calling, and he said he was. But we've got at 10 o'clock Elad Hakim, your favorite lawyer, and then Laura Loomer, who's busier than hell trying to beat Lois Frankel in Trump's home district for Congress. And then we've got Bill Hardwick out of Waynesville, I believe. He's running for office for the state in Missouri. He's going to show up live. How about that?
Well, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Dave, I can hardly wait to hear the rest of your show. This is going to be a good one. God bless you, my friend.
God bless you too, JJ. Thank you for being the opening act of the Dave Weinbaum Show. You're the best. Thank you.
Good day.
A little applause too. Thanks, buddy. Okay, so we're streaming live on Facebook, correct?
Yep.
Everything's working.
Yep.
All the buttons there mean something. Apparently, we've got a new mixer.
Yep.
Really high class mixer from Merle's Music down there. He's got a picture of himself in the Beatles, and I didn't realize Merle knew the Beatles or was that old, quite frankly.
Really? I didn't know that either.
Oh, yeah. He said he was.
You sure he just didn't Photoshop it in or something?
No, of course not.
Okay.
What are you accusing him of doing?
I just didn't
there
think
goes
he was that
my
old
discount at Merle's. Thanks a lot, JP.
I didn't think he was that old either, but.
And my wife is. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We are having a slight problem with Facebook. As you know, they've made recent changes, and it's become impossible to share to a group at this point.
Really?
And it will not allow me to start any watch parties. So we're Googling things and trying to see what they've done.
I wonder if they're on my butt because of what this thing is controversial,
and all groups are having problems now.
Huh?
I've heard it's virtually impossible to share to many groups now. So
really,
yeah, they've cranked it down.
And they want me to pay for advertising there, Zuckerberg. We'll boost it up if you pay. Why would I want to pay somebody who is liable to take down my show any second? Really?
Good point.
And under what pretenses? We had a show interrupted by Facebook from some fact checker who works for the Annenberg Foundation, which is a left-wing think tank. And she's disputing something I said in one of my posts, but she interrupted my show. And it was this thing she wrote in February about denying that the COVID-19 came from anywhere else except the wet market in China. And now we have pretty good evidence that it didn't come from the wet market in China. It came from the government secret. What's that? Okay.
Hello. Okay.
Yeah, hold on a second. The government secret,
Okay, sure.
the government secret laboratory in Wuhan. Hi there. Welcome to the Dave Weinbaum Show. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, Dave?
Yes.
Am I on the air right now?
Yes.
Oh, Dave, I meant to call you personally to discuss something with you. It has nothing to do with that.
Well, can you call me back after the show, please?
Yeah. What time would that be?
Call me back about 11:30. How's that?
Oh, okay, that sounds good. I used to be a former employee of yours back in the 70s.
Well, who didn't? Who wasn't? Thanks.
All right, take care.
All right, thank you.
Talk to you.
Yes, all of you out there in this area who were not my employee at one time or another, please raise your hands. JP's got his hand, but where are the crickets? I know you're not going to lose the crickets. There you go. Thanks.
I know exactly where those are at. No, I've got it.
All right, we got coming up next is the Rabbi, and I think maybe it's a Sicilian moment. I don't know, but go ahead. Sometimes you have to spread a little mustard to catch up. Forget about it. I love them condiments, When you make comments out of condiments, you cement what you're talking about, I mean, it's hard to concentrate when you say a word like cement in my business, because that's the thing you really don't want to forget about, where you bought the cement, the footprints, who ends up in the cement and things like that. So let's focus just on the condiments and forget about the rest. All right. So back here on the show, and I think we've got I have a lot of extra clips because I focused on. I got rid of all my clips and I redid them all Wednesday night late, and the reason is that I saw this interview with a gal who I had on my site. This gal, the Dr. Yan in the Wuhan lab, who helped create the COVID-19 at the order of the Chinese Communist Party and the Chinese militia. Okay? So she was made to do this, and she's in hiding because, as she says, China wants to make me disappear. And she's going to come up with more stuff, too. I hope she's in really good hands. But go ahead and play the second clip, please.
On March 31st, this show broadcast its contents. By then, more than 3,700 Americans had died from the coronavirus. Tens of thousands were then hospitalized. So we imagined there would be a serious national effort to find out where this virus came from, to find out how the pandemic started. But we were wrong about that. There wasn't. There was silence. The people in charge of our public health infrastructure simply ignored credible evidence that contradicted the Chinese government's version of events. That was 5.5 months ago. During those 5.5 months, our society has been completely upended by the coronavirus. Nearly 200,000 Americans have died from it. Now more than ever, we believe it is worth knowing where this disease came from. That ought to be the first question. So in search of an answer, last night on this show, we spoke to a Chinese virologist called Dr. Li Mengyang. Yang was one of the first scientists on Earth to study the Wuhan outbreak back in December of last year. What she found during her research put her on a collision course with the Chinese government. In April, she fled her country in fear for her life. Now she lives in the United States in hiding. Here's some of what she told us last night on the show.
From my first report, I can present the solid scientific evidence to our audience that this virus, COVID-19 SARS-CoV-2 virus, actually is not from nature. I work with the top coronavirologists in the world. So together with my experience, I can tell you this is created in the lab. This is from that template owned by China military. and also it is bad to the world to make such damage.
To make such damage, do you believe the Chinese government released this intentionally, on purpose? Did they do this?
Yes, of course, it's intentionally.
Wow. Okay, so if this is true, and Facebook has been putting people like me under the gun, generally, with stuff that was published back in February to offset what this woman is saying now. Think about that. Why would they do that? Why wouldn't this be at least investigated? Why would they be censoring me? Why would they be censoring the people that read my stuff that I work to get, and also me personally? Why do they have these fact checkers? Why not just have people dispute what I say with facts? They don't have to take my stuff down for that. That's pure and utter censorship. That's my First Amendment right, and it's your First Amendment right to read it and make your own judgment. Don't you think? What do you think, JP?
Yeah, I agree with you. And even clip 4 that we have, they talk more about Facebook censorship that Tucker Carlson was talking about. Kind of goes more in depth about it.
Let's play it again. Because Aaron said I'd never get this done, did he?
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll get it.
It's like the first half hour, we're going to have half of them done just about.
Yep.
All right, hit it.
So within a few hours of our interview last night, a video of the segment reached 1.3 million people on Facebook. And why wouldn't it? The coronavirus pandemic has touched the life of every American. And justifiably, people want to know where it came from. But Facebook still doesn't want you to know that. So Facebook suppressed the video, presumably on behalf of the Chinese government. Facebook executives made it harder for users to watch our segment. Those who found the video had to navigate a warning that the interview, quote, repeats information about COVID-19 that independent fact checkers say is false. Instagram, which Facebook also owns, did the same thing. Twitter suspended Dr. Yang's account entirely. It did not explain why. Nor did the tech companies explain how they would know more about disease transmission than an MD, PhD virologist like Dr. Lehman Yang. Instead, Facebook and Instagram linked to 3 so-called fact checks that supposedly proved Yang was lying.
I wonder if people like Zuckerberg, they got billions and billions. I mean, they're very rich people. Twitter, Jack Dorsey, and all the management at Google, I wonder if they're just a little nervous about this. I mean, even if they're just dupes, which it's hard to imagine them as just being dupes, They're not dupes, are they, honey? Sorry, did I catch you working? I'm sorry. Or what? Is that the laundry list, or what? I don't understand.
I'm working here.
Gee, all right.
I'll comment later.
Do you think those guys are dupes at Twitter and Facebook? Are they just being duped? It's hard.
It's hard. I don't think they're dupes. I just think they have an agenda that they're trying to push. And here's my concern about Biden getting in. Is how much more censorship will happen if he's president. Now, on the flip side, I think Trump will win. And when he doesn't have to worry about a re-election campaign like he had to do now, I think he's going to get even more aggressive with stuff, and we'll see if the censorship gets even worse.
All right, hey, call the show. Now, the rabbi is going to be calling within a minute, I think. Yep. But let me give you the phone number because I've neglected to do that thus far. 573-578-2700. And if you worked for me in the 70s, 80s, 60s, actually I didn't start really until early 72. And then save it for another time, please. I love to reminisce.
You just never know when you have a live show.
No, I see it in the drive-thru all the time. And by the way, the drive-thru is really my customers are smart. I swear. They are 99.9% of them are amazing. They even start honking now. If people are knowingly not moving ahead and preventing other customers from getting waited on. Why should other customers have to wait on somebody moving ahead than not. Now, the way I'd like to do this situation is I would like to be able to outside order take in these like other restaurants have figured out. And why McDonald's cannot figure this out, I have no idea. So what are you going to do? All right, I don't know who this is, but I do know one thing, that if he answers with shalom instead of, hey, what's happening, boy, I'm pretty sure this is the rabbi. Is it the rabbi?
Maybe.
Oh, no, you're supposed to say shalom. Oh, my God. Anyways, play a song anyways.
Shana Tova, how's that?
Yeah, Shana Tova. See, I had to look that up, but I know what to say now. That came from Shana Baklava in Jerusalem. Do you know her?
Not baklava. Baklava is a kind of a dessert.
Oh, that was her stage name. That was her stage name.
Her name was Baklava, really?
Yeah.
Right? I see her name is Shina Batsheva. That's what I see on your page.
What? Batsheva?
Batsheva. Batsheva. Yeah,
Okay.
Batsheva.
All right. Well, she sent me. Baklava. That's good stuff, isn't it? That's crunchy stuff.
Yeah.
Ooh, I love that.
It's yummy.
What's the difference between that and halava? Halava.
Yes.
Halava. No, it's not halava. It's halava.
Yeah.
All right, let's play your song before we end up talking this way for the next 2 hours. Hit it.
Okay, you got it. Yeah, 1 second, Dave. You were talking to another rabbi. Sounds like you're cheating on me.
No, actually, I'm cheating with you on him because he was the first rabbi. Listen to this. I got rabbis fighting over me. This is kind of weird. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the second most powerful person in Israel and his own home, according to his wife Yonit, a not-for-profit future rabbi to the Trump Third Temple Hotel, Spa, golf course, and casino, and a man watching his fellow citizens be locked down during Rosh Hashanah. Please welcome Rabbi Moshe Rothchild. Okay, Rabbi, how's it going today? Did you just set your alarm off?
Going.
Whose alarm was that?
I'm miscalling you.
What's that?
I'm miscalling the Dave Weinbaum show.
You're going to miss calling me. Why? They're taking your
so
phone
I don't
away?
forget to call you.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Oh, that was your alarm.
That was my alarm.
It was set.
Yeah.
It was set late. You got to fix your clocks here in Israel.
Well, it's 5:35 p.m. here in Israel. It went off at 5:25, but then I hit snooze just in case.
Oh, well, that's terrific. So then 10 minutes later, during my amazing introduction and song for you, it's interrupted by your alarm clock. All right, that's weird.
Yeah.
Anyways, so are you incarcerated in your own house right now?
Yep. 3.5 hours ago here in Israel, we started our second lockdown. We are in full lockdown now. It's very depressing. But the numbers here have gone from when we opened up to, a handful a day, 20, 30 to over 5,000 a day.
What the hell happened?
I think we opened up too fast. And the infections just continue to rise and rise and rise. And one of the hospitals here actually has, locked the doors, and they can't take any more patients. Wow. And more than one hospital. And so the government we're shut down now for 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. We don't know what's going to happen.
So now it's the holy holidays today. So what do you do? You have virtual services or what?
Well, you're allowed to leave your house within, what would be about a mile for certain reasons. So you can go to the service, but it's limited. But based on the size of the room, it could be 20 people, 25 people, very small. Broken down into little services all over.
Yeah.
But it's it's not how it normally is or how it should be. It's a little depressing for a lot of people that are stuck by themselves. Yeah.
I would imagine so. Anyways, let's talk about happier stuff if we can. Mideast peace at hand. The Dems call it a distraction to the COVID in the United States, and Drudge doesn't even cover it. And we're talking about not just one Nobel Peace Prize, but Trump being nominated for 2. Why do you? I mean, if this were Barack Obama, my goodness, the headlines would be everywhere, wouldn't they?
Absolutely. For Obama, the distractions were, giving $150 million to the $200 million to the Palestinians when he left office.
Yeah.
He had distractions like giving, $1 billion to terrorists and Iran. Just small distractions like that.
$150 billion to Iran on pallets. Yeah.
I mean, to call the 2 peace treaties in the Middle East, the first treaties in 26 years that double the Arab countries that Israel has peace with, to call it a distraction that's just a crime. If you ask me, it's just it just demonstrates once again Pelosi's and then the Democrats their disdain for anything good.
Now, according to Trump, they've got a lot more wanting in. So the question is, which ones want in? The question is, who doesn't want in?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, and I've seen a lot of things about how when Trump came to office and the New York Times was tweeting that Jared Kushner, there's no way, you had brilliant people before him that came along, couldn't negotiate peace. There's no way Jared Kushner is going to be able to do it. They're eating crow now. He suddenly, came along and has done something, as a young 35-year-old real estate developer that no one's done in more than 2 decades.
Yeah. But Trump set the now maybe Jared has something to do with the strategies too. I suspect that he did. But their strategy was, we don't need the Palestinians. We're not going to prop them up anymore. We're going to go out and do what we need to do. And the biggest thing they did, according to a general that was on this morning, was they killed General Soleimani, because the most of those countries are scared to death of being taken over by Iran. And Soleimani was Iran's leading terrorist.
I mean, exactly. Where the United States administration has shown they're willing to stand by their, those who are their friends here in the Middle East. Obama would never do that. So they feel very confident. So the taking out of a terrorist of Soleimani has won the respect of many of the Arab nations here. Look, John Kerry, he was the one who said there'll never be peace unless first there's peace with the Palestinians.
I actually quoted that in my talk to J.J. Bradshaw, that Kerry and the Obama administration said there will never be peace until the Palestinian problem is solved.
Right.
Now, really, the long-term strategy, though, is to get eventually to put enough pressure on Iran, and yes, even the Palestinians possibly, to come in and join the deal. Isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. They're going to have to realize at some point either they get in or there'll be no piece of the pie left for them all. And I think with all the dominoes falling around them, that will eventually happen.
Let's go back to the COVID-19, which you are still quarantined for. There's a scientist. Did you hear about the scientist who's apparently in hiding, Li Mei Yang? And she's been on the Tucker Show. I've had her on my site for a long time now, about a week or so. How long has it been? About a week? Yeah. and then Tucker Carlson got a hold of her and did a live interview with her, and she's saying that the Chinese made this along with her. She was like one of the lead viralists, or whatever they call it, in the Wuhan lab, and it didn't come out of the wet market. And it was intentionally spread around the world by the Chinese Communist Party and the military. And I'm wondering if the USA was the actual target, and the rest of the world was thrown in just to throw off the accusation that the United States could be the target. What do you think?
It wouldn't surprise me, in the least, and I'm not one of these conspiracy guys, but with China wanting to take the United States down a notch or two in order to control the world's economy and to be a superpower and so on, it wouldn't really surprise me. I don't know how many cases are in China today, but perhaps they also have they already have the cure before they created the virus. I mean,
this interview has been so succinct. We have a little time to talk about the high holidays, Rosh Hashanah. Tell our Christian friends and even us, fairly inexplicably ignorant Jewish friends, like me, exactly what Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur mean. Briefly.
Right. So these are called, very, very briefly, these are called the high holidays. It starts tonight. We celebrate, it's the Jewish New Year. And, a week later, 10 days later, is Yom Kippur. So it's during the Jewish New Year, unlike the American New Year, or the secular New Year, is a day of, it's not partying, but it's a day of great introspection to reflect upon the past year and pray to God that the coming year should be more blessed and even better than the previous, which this time around it won't be too hard to top this past year.
Well, and let me just add this. In case you Christians are saying this is so foreign to us, this is just who heard of this kind of thing. Name somebody that they are very familiar with who celebrated these high holidays. How about Jesus?
That's true. That's correct.
Okay,
and
so
I think the main symbol of this holiday that many Christians are familiar with is the shofar, which is the ram's horn. Yeah. And it's meant to symbolize like the most basic human cry, a wordless cry. We just blow the sound of the ram's horn as an expression of prayer that represents things we can't even say. Words can limit a person, and the blasting of the shofar is just screaming out and calling out to God in a wordless cry.
Yeah. So this is our history, and it's not just our history. Yeah. We are one of the three Abrahamic religions, and that's why they call them the Abraham Accords, the peace treaties that are being signed. And we're all part of that. Even the Muslims are part of that, because now we have a Muslim country on there. Is that Kosovo, right? Yeah, and that's something. Other than DaveWeinbaum.net, where can people find and contribute?
They can go to my website, IsraelAlliance.org, IsraelAlliance.org, and we'd love to hear from anyone and everyone out there.
Rabbi, when I was a younger guy, I applied for the night shift at a funeral home, but all they had was in mourning. Ladies and gentlemen, Rabbi Moshe, did you get that?
1 second. All they had was what?
In mourning. There. All they had was in mourning. Okay.
I thought you were going to get the night shifts, but you went there and the place was dead.
No! Wait a minute. You can't take his subversion of my joke that I worked on for hours, and give him credit and me crickets.
I'm kind of working the board here. I got control.
Oh my gosh! You're paying him off behind my back. What's going on with that?
Did you see the challah bread he made?
Yeah, what's that?
Did you see the challah bread he made?
Did I see it?
You saw my picture?
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
I'll send you a piece when I come in 6 months. I'll bring it for you.
All right, yeah. Bring us.
That
What do
should
you mean?
be
Bring us a
good.
piece.
Should be good.
How about not the same bread? Bring some fresh stuff, will you? For God's sakes! Oh my God, he's gonna bring us stale
You know
challah
what,
bread.
Dave? You have my word. Next time I come, whenever it'll be, I'm going to bake you a fresh one.
Cool. All right, Rabbi. Thanks a lot. Shabbat shalom.
All right, guys.
Shana
Shalom,
Tova.
Shana Tova. Have a good
Bye.
year. Healthy year.
Bye bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Hi. I guess we had a phone call, right? Hi there. Welcome to the Dave. Whoops. Do I? Hi there. Welcome to the Dave Weinbaum Show. Which name are you calling from?
This is Brian from Salem.
Well, hello, Brian. How are you, old friend?
Oh, doing all right.
Good.
Say, had an observation.
Yes, sir.
You remember, what was it, a week or two ago when those sheriff deputies sitting in their car got shot?
Yeah.
You remember
Italy,
that?
right?
Okay. You know, there was that one guy, did you hear about him, who was really, really happy, just going on and on about how the police got shot?
Yeah.
Okay. I kind of wonder if he didn't do that as part of a bigger plan to measure the public reaction to disrespect of the police.
Well,
Because
and
what he was
I
doing
think all
seemed
of it.
overboard. I
I
don't
think
see
you're
how
right.
anyone could be
I
that
think
happy.
you're absolutely right. All of this is a test to see what people will do, and when people don't do anything, they do more. They do more. They get braver. They get bolder. That's what Ferguson was all about. If you saw it, they were scared to death of the police at first, but once the police let them do their thing, Baltimore is another example of that. Let them do their thing. By letting them do their thing, it gets out of hand, and that's what they're looking for. That's why they're a little reticent now. You know, Donald. They remember when they were tearing down the monuments?
Yeah.
And no monument has been torn down now for 4 months. Why do you think that is?
Because Donald Trump sent in the whoever it was to take care of him.
He arrested them. He had them arrested. It's 10-year sentence for a bunch of, and it turns out to be a bunch of privileged white progressives. So
yeah, this is not African American people doing this. It's mostly, like you said, a bunch of malcontent whites.
Yeah, exactly. Who are spoiled brats.
Spoiled brats with no sense of right and wrong and absolutely no conscience about.
Well, they've been taught that America is evil. White people are evil. Yeah. The white people themselves say we're evil. So they work for Black Lives Matter. They can do whatever the hell they want to anybody. They can go into restaurants and yell and scream at people and drink their drinks and throw stuff around. They can go outside when they have outside seating. Who wants to go in an outside seating after what we've seen in D.C. and New York?
Speaking of outside seating, you know, they're really having a problem with that now because of all the smoke in the air.
Yeah, it's
and
in LA,
they
sure.
want to go inside to eat so they can breathe, which I can kind of understand.
Well, now
this wildfire, a lot of it's been set by these kind of people too.
Well, yeah,
these Black Lives Matter people.
Yeah, now all the governors on the West Coast are the liberal ones are calling about this is global warming. I didn't know arson was part of global warming. Did you?
No, it's not. I'll tell you, if they want to squawk about pollution, take a look outside. The sun is weak. It is orange because of all the smoke in the air. Even here in Missouri, I can look outside right now and see it.
Well, I don't have the option right now, but I'll make sure I look on my way out. All I know is the sun shines brightest on the golf course, my friend.
Well, okay, whatever. But I'll tell you right now, they have pumped out 10 times as much pollution in the fires that they caused by their lack of management of the forest.
A lot of people are going to get sick over that. That's for sure. I agree, but that's forest management, according to Donald Trump, and I believe he's correct. You know?
He is, and it's also people management.
Hey, I want to do a test on you. I want to do my next clip, and I want to see if you can hear it. Okay? Because last week we couldn't hear it. So you're going to be Well, you're going to be a little bit of a stool pigeon. No, what do they call that?
Guinea pig.
Guinea pig.
A guinea
Yes.
pig.
Yes. Okay. Hit it.
If you clicked on the provided links, you noticed something odd.
Can you hear it?
Fact checks were all published months ago, many months,
Yeah,
in January,
but
February,
I think
and March.
you got your
And they
complexion
had nothing
wrong.
whatsoever to do with what Dr. Lee
It
said
gets a little
on the show.
loud
They were very
and in the
effective in
louder
who she
spots,
was.
and
One of the fact
the
checks attacks
softer spots
completely
are about right.
unrelated
Can you
claims
tell that?
the virus
Can you
was
tell what's
patented
happening?
and that a vaccine was prepared and ready to go. What does it have to do with the interview?
It's
we did
distorting
last
in the higher
No one can tell us.
in the higher volume sections.
The truth is, and you know it if you
Turn it
watch
down a
carefully,
little.
Okay.
experts have been wrong.
All right. Listen, Brian, I got to go. Thanks a lot, my friend. You have a great
Okay.
weekend, okay? Nice to hear from you. And we have another caller. Yeah, sure. We'll take it. What's that?
Facebook, so.
Oh, good. All right. Well, let
Circle
me
back
get
to
this.
that.
Let me get this caller. I bet.
Sure.
No, don't tell me. It's Adolf. Hi there. Welcome to the Dave Weinbaum Show. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Adolf.
Oh
You're a
my
good
God!
guesser.
I can't
Welcome
believe.
to
No,
my
I
presence.
cannot see my phone. I can't see my phone. I just had a feeling it was Adolf. All right, now I want to get to this question on Facebook. Yes, you can ask questions on Facebook. Believe it or not. Hit it, honey. What's the question on
There
Facebook?
you go.
Oh, okay.
Gee.
Whatever it takes to get the people out. That's
Right,
what
hold
it's
on
going
a
to be.
minute,
and
hold
that's
on a
what's going
minute,
to
Adolf.
decide this election.
Adolf,
How
hold
many
on.
Republicans
How come he can't hear me?
out to vote?
Huh? Adolf, hold on a minute. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Hold
I
on.
can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah? Okay. You need to be quiet just for a second. I want to read this question off of Facebook.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, Betsy wants to know if she was curious if the virologist was asked if any big officials caught the virus, or do they have the cure or antidote over there?
You know, I didn't hear that on the tapes. I don't. She's gonna. She says if she's not disappeared, as she called it, she's gonna. She has other stuff coming out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So stay tuned, Betsy. Thanks for the question.
And we'll try to get that posted when we see it.
Huh?
We'll try to get that follow-up posted when
Yes.
we see it.
Thank you very much. Okay. All right, Adolf. It's all yours, my friend.
Hey, I've been an election judge for 5 years.
Yeah.
Well, actually more than that. But even in the last presidential election, the highest percentage I saw was 25% of registered voters. And that's just nonsense. If they don't want Biden, then you got to go out and vote. If you sit at home, you just voted for Biden.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and you know that they're pushing for the mail-in vote here. Although with Nancy Pelosi not wearing a mask and Joe Biden going and voting live, I would think that that's not real necessary. You could vote. I realize there's going to be some absentee balloting, but there's a process they go through to make sure you are identified. But in just blank spreading of ballots,
somebody has got to sit there and go through every one of them mail-in ballots and decide whether or not that person is eligible.
That's right. And they're counting on this. The Democrats, they know they're going to lose.
Yeah, well, I heard a good one the other day.
Oh, well, don't give me any bad ones.
There's these two alligators. They're brothers.
Yeah.
One's a great big one, and the other is a little bitty one. And they live in the D.C. swamp. Well, the big one was sitting there, and the little one looked at him, and he says, well, how come you're so big and I'm so little? Because we were born in the same nest.
Yeah.
And the big one says, well, it all depends on the food you eat, I guess. And he says, well, what do you eat? He says, well, politicians. What do you eat? Politicians. Well, the big one says, well, how do you get yours? Well, I just kind of hide under their Lexus, and when they open the door, I reach up and grab them, and I shake the crap out of them, and I eat them.
Yeah.
Well, that's basically what I do. Still don't know what the difference is. What party do they belong? Well, mostly what I eat is Democrats. Well, see, there's your problem. Once you shake the crap out of them, there's no protein left other than butthole and the briefcase.
Shame on you. Hey, all right, yeah, I got a prep for you guys.
I even got a compliment from Joanne last week.
Adolf, I ran into a girl with a guest shirt, so I said, 34C?
Yeah.
And, what? You're not Yeah, okay, he liked that one. My wife liked that one, too. What are you doing? You can't pretend like you're going to, puke into the microphone. That's not allowed on this show.
I was coughing, and you
Coughing?
and you
No,
don't need
no,
to be
no.
guessing
Worse than
anything
coughing.
like that.
It
You
was
do
beyond
not-
coughing.
you do
All
not
right,
need to
Adolph,
guess
what
that.
were we saying about Joanne?
I said she even gave me a compliment the other day.
What's that?
No, I love when she uses adjectives because she called me an awesome pain in the butt.
An awesome pain in the butt. Well, there you go.
That's better than being a bad one, I guess.
Yeah. What happened? You dropped from being a pain in the neck. That's not good.
Well, yeah, I lowered myself.
You
I guess.
lowered yourself. All right. Hi to Joanne, and thank you so much, Adolph, for being a star, if not a comic on the show. Actually, you get better response than I do. This is wrong. All right. Thanks a lot, my friend.
Hey, you have a great week.
You too. All right. Coming up in a couple minutes, we've got Elad. Now let's play that clip again, the one we just played, because I was more or less doing technical stuff. Chester, are you listening? Is it coming through?
Chester actually tried to call a little bit ago. So
that was him?
We can try to call him back after the clip.
Okay, good. Great. All right. Super.
But if you clicked on the provided link, you noticed something odd. The fact checks were all published months ago, many months, in January, February, and March. And they had nothing whatsoever to do with what Dr. Li Mingyang said on our show. They were written before, in fact, anyone knew who she was. One of the fact checks attacks a completely unrelated claim. The virus was patented and that a vaccine was prepared and ready to go. What does it have to do with the interview that we did last night? No one will tell us that. The truth is, and you know it if you've watched carefully, experts have been wrong frequently throughout this pandemic. At one point, they told us not to wear masks. Now they tell us we must, and so on. They have changed their prescriptions many times. Most of these are not bad people. Most of them are trying their best. But they're human beings, and therefore they're fallible. They make mistakes. The solution to this age-old problem, and we used to understand this intuitively, is more informed voices in the conversation. That's how you make wise decisions. That's how you get to the truth.
Okay, that was the fourth one, right? And you're going to call Chester and see if...
I'm actually calling him now. That was actually the fifth clip.
That was the fifth clip.
Yep.
Okay, good. Aaron, eat your heart out. I've got 4 more clips to play, and we're not even halfway through the show, are we?
We're almost halfway.
Almost
I think
halfway
Chester,
through the show.
I think he's
We're
on the
on-
line.
There. Hi there. Huh?
Chester should be on the line.
Oh, hi there. Welcome to the Dave Weinbaum Show. Is this Chester?
This is Chester from North of Doolittle.
Okay, you got 2 minutes, my friend.
I didn't
how we
call
doing?
You called me. What do you want?
Well, I'm calling you back. What do you
I
want?
called you to tell you that your volume is very, very low.
My volume is low. The whole show, or what?
Yes. It started low and then it dropped. I got my speakers turned all the way up, so I'm listening to all the hum.
You're listening to the hum. Okay.
Yeah,
are you
when
listening-
you turn your speakers all the way up, you start hearing your own hum
Are you listening to Facebook or on the website?
on the website, on your
Okay,
stream site.
We're having some issues with sound quality on that one, but I'm working
Yes,
on it as we go.
that's why I was calling you.
Okay, hey, thanks, Chester. Appreciate that.
Other than that, everything is fine. Other than the fact that the world is going to hell, but so that's the way it is.
Well, you get all the stuff. I send you all my stuff that I put on my site, so you should have at least enough information.
Yeah, but I'm not going to steal your thunder.
Well, to respond, because you're part of the swamp. Let's face it.
I'm not part of this.
You were, weren't you?
What are you talking about?
You worked for the federal government.
You're not supposed to talk about that kind of stuff. You might have visitors at the middle of the night.
Oh, now here we go. Here we go. Now what?
Broken glass.
Oh my God! I think I've been threatened. Oh, guess what? Oh, gee darn! I have to go. I got my next interview. Thanks. Oh gosh! Now I'm in trouble. What's wrong with that? I don't know. Did I do something wrong? Apparently I did. All right. So anyway, I don't know who this is, but welcome to the Dave Weinbaum Show, and let's play his little song, please. Ladies and gentlemen, powerhouse South Florida lawyer, expert on law and politics, a pundit published in the Washington Examiner, the Epic News, the Federalist, and he is the Perry Mason to the Dave Weinbaum Show. Shana Tova to Elad Hakeem. All right, Elad, well, happy Rosh Hashanah. How you doing?
Thanks. I'm well. How are you guys?
We're pretty good. We're pretty good. I just talked to the rabbi, and they are locked down in Israel. Locked down right now on Rosh Hashanah.
Yes, they are.
Oh, I
think for I think it's like 3 weeks now they're going to do that.
Yeah, he's pretty ticked off. He's been assigned to make more challah. He's baking challah. That's what he's doing.
Sorry. Yeah, they're going to have, well, you know what? The numbers there are really bad.
Yeah. Hey, I've got a surefire prediction for the election. You know who's going to make the most money off of this election? Off the backs of American voters? The lawyers. Oh, my gosh. Are they going to make a fortune?
Yeah, you got, especially with the way things are going now and with the anticipation of of a contested election, you're probably right. They're already being lined up.
Well, you need to be lined up on, hopefully you'll be on the right side, but still, both sides are going to have a lot of lawyers. I mean,
what's going to have to happen? Trump is going to have to win by enough votes on the third where it won't really matter.
Well, I hope you're right, but they've got a lot of these votes going out, and a lot of these Democrat governors who control what they can do in their state are sending these out by the boxful, and it's going to be real easy to cheat.
Yeah, and it's a real concern, and Trump has been concerned about it. And I forgot where it was, but I think a court ruled yesterday that they could send out, they could count votes. I think there were mail-in votes for 3 days after the election. I forgot where that happened, but there was a court ruling yesterday. Listen, it's a real concern. It's a real problem.
Okay, hey,
God knows
your good friend,
who's filling out these mail-in votes.
Your
these
good
mail-in
friend
ballots.
Alan Dershowitz is suing CNN for defamation for $300 million. They changed his words, and Joe Lockhart and other Dems are carrying the ball on what they did to him. Those are the ones that are taking him on, and they just changed his words, to mean something else that he said. So what are your thoughts on that?
Defamation, I don't know the exact, I didn't look at his complaints. I don't recall the exact words. I can tell you defamation is it's difficult, especially when you're a public figure. You have to show malice. So you have to show that what you did was you intentionally did it, or you recklessly didn't care about whether or not it was true. Dershowitz is a smart guy and he's a lawyer, so I'm sure he wouldn't pursue something without having a strong case.
Well, he's very familiar with the law and all. It probably has a lot to do with the law.
Listen, it's going to be interesting, and I hope, I know that he's a Democrat, but I know that he's been pretty fair and pretty critical of the Democrats.
Yes, he has.
And, the news, CNN and these different outlets, they deserve to get smacked because they are just terrible in the way that they portray what people say, or they do it to Trump. They do it now. Apparently, they did it to Dershowitz. So,
well, you remember the kid with the Trump MAGA hat, Sandman? He was 16 at the time. Remember, he sued them all, and apparently they all settled with him. And I thought it was defamation, is what he claimed. And how many millions of dollars did this kid get in a settlement? from CNN. I think the New York Times, the Washington
I don't know how much it was because I think it was a confidential amount. You know, a lot of times they do that.
I'm asking you to
but
guess,
I suspect
Counselor.
it's more than it's more than a couple bucks. You know what? I'm happy to see that people are having the guts to go forward and to pursue legal remedies against these news outlets, because what they're doing is simply it's just vile. I'm sorry, I can't think of any other word. You think about the reach they have, and the fact that they are just misquoting or intentionally changing words, and they shouldn't be allowed to get, they shouldn't be allowed to do that. I'm really happy to see that they are being held accountable now.
Have you been following what Tucker Carlson and I have been talking about on my website for the last week? This Chinese virologist who worked in the Wuhan laboratory and said that the Chinese Communist Party, via the Chinese military, actually made this virus to be a Frankenstein virus, and they spread it too. Instead of this, it's an accident and it happened at the Wuhan wet market. Have you been following this?
A little bit. I can say that is. What are you supposed to say?
I'm going to tell you from a legal aspect. Facebook, Zuckerberg, Twitter, Jack, Google management, and all the social media companies have been censoring this. And we're talking about possibly the biggest mass murder other than World War II in history. It's at least going to be 1 million worldwide, and it's going to be over 200,000 in this country. And don't you think that there's some culpability from people hiding the story?
I can't hear you, Dave. What did you say?
I said, don't you think there's some culpability from people?
Oh, listen, 100%. 100%. If she's credible, and I know who she is, but I haven't really heard her or listened to her, but if she's credible, then 100%. And, the president seemed to indicate, he's indicated that and that's why he's labeled it, the way he has. He's really strongly hinted that China intentionally released it, which I never imagined that another country would do that. Just think about that for a minute. But if that's
I thought about it, and I think long and hard about the tough negotiations with the Chinese. China's never been called out like this. I think what happened is, personally, now this is a bit of a conspiracy theory, but based on what this woman is saying, I think the real target was the United States of America and Donald J. Trump, a way to get him unelected and a way to do damage to our economy and our military and everything else in the country.
Well, it does
and
put
it's worked
Biden
so
in a
far.
real bind, doesn't it?
Huh?
Because he's got ties. He's got obviously very strong ties to China. He's in their back pocket.
Yeah, he's not calling him out.
Somewhat. So, if that's the case, what's he going to do? Is he going to come out and publicly condemn and take whatever measures are necessary
He
against
has
China?
refused to do so thus far. Isn't that interesting? Joe
But he
Biden
won't even,
and all the social
he won't even
media
condemn
is
the rioters yet.
he barely does.
what I mean?
Yeah, right. But all the social media now is censoring people like me. They censored me, okay, because I was talking about this, throwing up the possibility even before this happened that this did happen in the Wuhan lab, as Senator Cotton from Arkansas has stated, and Josh Hawley, senator from Missouri, has stated. Why shouldn't we be able to speculate on this and not be taken down from some fact checker who said, what's that?
I was just doing quotes for fact
checker.
checker.
Oh, fact checker, yes, yeah. Okay. I thought I had something on my nose there for a minute. I thought that's what you were signaling.
Well, because there is no accountability for these social media sites now.
Well, I think we're looking at big-time abetment of murder. It depends on what they knew and what they did, but they're censoring, too. So it's very much anti-First Amendment, and also it's obstruction of justice. We need to know how this was done. We need to know what the intentions were so it doesn't happen again. Don't you think?
100%. 100%. That is some real scary stuff to have an intentionally released bio weapon by another country. That's crazy. That's unbelievable. Very, very scary stuff.
So Bill
Speaking
Barr,
of obstruction, Speaking of obstruction, think about what's your take on the wiped out phones?
Oh my gosh. Oh, so how do you do that if you're the former head of the FBI? You're assigned to do this job by Congress, and it involves all sorts of allegations against the President of the United States, a phony dossier and the rest, and they wipe their phones clean. How is that not obstruction of justice if it's to be investigated?
Well, it certainly sounds like it is. And, I've been thinking about it the past couple of days. Ever since Comey agreed to testify, either these people are just plainly so egotistical and so, or have so much, they think so much of themselves that they don't care about testifying, or they didn't do something wrong. I mean, it can't be. Why would Comey voluntarily come to testify?
That's a good question. I think the guy's got something. I think he's got something missing in his brain.
I mean, something's got to be off because for somebody to come and voluntarily testify about information that is at the heart of of this whole Russia collusion,
right?
It's really odd. Either he's just so pompous that he doesn't think he can be tricked into anything,
he's above it all.
Or God knows what it is.
Yeah.
You would think they would at least contest it. He wasn't even. They didn't even have to issue a subpoena for him. He volunteered to come in.
Well, let me ask you about.
Is refusing.
Yeah.
And I don't know about Strzok. I don't know if he agreed but he's another one.
Yeah.
I mean, he recently came out and said that he doesn't even know why Durham is investigating.
Yeah. Well, he was under pressure. You see, that's what happened. He said, "We were under such pressure."
Pressure.
Right. Okay.
But I've really been thinking about it. I'm curious. Some people are just so out of it, or so sick that they would volunteer to come in. But
here's the
otherwise,
thing.
you really do wonder.
This country wasn't controlled by the Oval Office. It was controlled by unelected bureaucrats for the last who knows how long, since Hoover. Hoover did it. He was really the guy pulling the strings. And they're used to it. They're not used to being shoved aside like this. And I think a lot of them are still that confident of their power without getting elected. That's how confident they are, and that's how deep it goes. You got the whole CIA up in hands. Gina Haspel laments the damage to morale that the Durham investigation is having. Well, too effing bad. What's your reaction to that?
I'm looking forward to the Durham findings. I have faith in Durham. I have faith in Barr. By the way, Barr is under constant attack now by the left.
Of course. You know why?
And whether or not Durham actually indicts, I'll still have faith in him. Both sides of the aisle have said that he's a straight shooter. Now Democrats are obviously attacking him, saying it's politicized, but they always liked him, and you really do hope that justice is served, and that there are indictments, or at the very least, there are consequences to those who were.
You better hurry up. The time is running out. That's all I got to say about him. But Bill Barr,
time is getting. time is getting tight. You know, really, time is really getting tight.
Let me mention.
They've got to come out with something. But you know, on the other hand, and Barr said it. You know, people who aren't in this justice system and lawyers, they don't understand that it does take time. You know, and he, you know, like he mentioned, you know, if you want to question somebody, that person will get a lawyer, and a lawyer will object, and then they have to go through the hoops in order to get some information. So it takes time.
Bill Barr.
Bill
Barr was rumored to want to have charges against Mayor Ginny out there in Seattle, and they denied that. But also, let me finish.
I think what did they say? It was a sedition, right?
You got to let me finish. I wasn't finished. It's Seattle, and also Seattle. That was Jenny Durkin, or whatever her name is, and also the guy Wheeler in Portland. They were debating charging Mayor Wheeler out there in Portland as well. Now, are they culpable to letting federal property be attacked like that or not?
Well, I don't know if that's the basis of sedition, though. I think that you have to show basically a desire to overthrow, almost to overthrow the government. You know, whether or not that's the case, I mean, that's not easy to show. And I think
would you allow people to burn federal courts?
I'm sorry, say it again.
When you allow people to burn down federal courts?
Yeah, because that's showing intent to overthrow the government. I don't know. I mean, it's something that I would have to research.
Okay.
And I think that's kind of why Barr was talking about it behind closed doors, so to speak.
All right.
But listen, yes, I do think that these people should be held culpable because, and I can't remember which governor actually one of them proposed something. I can't remember if it was Cruz. At some point, he mentioned something about that you can't just these mayors and governors can't just turn a blind eye when these protesters are committing violence and looting, and they should be held responsible. And I think that there's some merit to that. I really do.
Yeah.
There's just too much protection to these different
guys,
government officials.
They have to be. You know, you can go too far and too little. And for goodness sakes, you can't let people burn down property, much less federal property. Federal property is the responsibility of who? The President of the United States. He's responsible for that. So when you enter into the realm of destroying federal property, courthouses and whatever, then I think the president has to. His job is to protect it, isn't it?
His job is to protect it. Yeah, but I don't know if that goes that. I don't know if that's the basis for sedition.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure about the actual crime.
There may be other grounds to protect it, but I don't know if it's sedition.
Hey, other than DaveWeinbaum.net, where can people find and hire you? They
can find me at Thoughtfully Conservative on Facebook and at Thoughtful GOP on Twitter, and then just look me up, Elad Hakim, PA, if you want to hire me or ask any legal questions.
Hey, Elad, a friend told me we were having a shortage of milk. I said that's utterly impossible, and we could always come up with a better punchline. Ladies and gentlemen, Elad Hakim calling all the way from Boca Raton. His better half is not on the show today, but, tell Amers I say hi, and hi to the kids, and Shana Tova.
She's always on the show in heart.
Well, she's great, okay? She is.
Have a Shana Tova and a Shabbat Shalom, and only happy, good, and sweet things ahead.
Wow, that's very kind of you, and if I had time, I'd repeat that to you. Anyways, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom, my friend. Shana Tova. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. We're coming up now. We had some phone calls, did we not?
Yeah, I'm going to try to get them on.
All right, go ahead. Okay, so, it's been a busy show, I realize. and I knew it was going to be busy. But what do you want me to do? Sit here and just yawn and say, well, what are we going to do next? I don't know. I don't run a show like that. I like a show to be lively. You know, I want to
be very lively today.
Hi there. Welcome to the Dave Weinbaum Show. I think you called earlier. What's your name? Where you're calling from?
This is Martin from Edgar Springs.
Oh, it's about time. I'll cut you out of drive-through here pretty soon. You know, you keep promising to call. And by the way, do we have that Weinbaum humor, Weinbaum music?
Oh no!
God, hit it if you can.
I don't have any.
No. You hold on.
2017.
Can you hear?
Listen to unique singing
Yes,
style of your favorite
unfortunately, I
host.
can.
Yes, and you will have that home
Spells out
to your
songs
ear.
like
But Snowflake, you know you can take it. Everybody,
You got
that hateful feeling. Whoa, that hateful feeling.
Or how about this?
As you wish me hell to everyone you could tell. Lisa, that you'd been spying over me. Spying over me. I'm learning. Then you spread your views to the mainstream news.
And timeless memories like
You don't know me. I'm in the federal witness plan. You don't breathe, Martin. Breathe in and out. In and I might be in Afghanistan.
Dave's Hits of 2017 is not sold in any store.
Here's my favorite part.
Fast, you can get Dave's favorite insults absolutely free with your order.
You schmuck. Kiss my toe. That was for you. I hear you try to donate your brain to science, but they're all fucking... Good luck. I don't take the broom out of your hands when you're trying to do your job. I hear you're 1 foot short of a yard sale. There was a lot of testosterone in my marriage. Too bad none of it was mine. I married a trophy wife, but I couldn't afford to mount her. I had 2 feet of snow on my car, so my wife offered me her broom. I said, thanks, but you're going to have to teach me how to fly it first. Got any complaints? Go to hell and wait.
The perfect way to close out the year. Dave's Hits of 2017.
That's all, folks.
Well, you know
from funny,
In case you're wondering, that last word was bastard. So I don't want you to, I don't want you to think I was getting nice to you or anything like that. So, so what the hell did you? Yeah, there you go. He got it. Play that one more time because I don't think they heard that in Branson.
What do you know from funny, you bastard?
There you go. Okay, so what the hell did you call for? Except to listen to that.
I'd let you know that I'm a little nervous because I think that Biden's going to win, and I hate to say that.
Why?
But
why do you think he's going to win?
If he wins the city of Arizona, he's going to win that Senate race he's in. So,
you're talking about the state of Arizona, right?
Well, he said he's campaigning for the city of Arizona. And another time he said that he's running for the Senate, and if you like him, vote for him. If not, vote for somebody else.
Yeah.
So I think if he wins the city of Arizona, that he will win that Senate seat. You know.
Listen, you're just a dog. You're just a dog-faced pony soldier.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
So this is how he's going to win. Is that right?
Yeah.
Are you serious? You really think he's going to win, or are you just joking?
Oh, just joking.
I hope so.
Could be a blowout. Look at Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And, the people that showed up there, and they were talking about how that, supporters in certain areas of the state where he was at in the last election, they supported
Hillary?
Screwballs.
Yeah.
And Hillary. And they're all what has happened is these riots have scared them all. And they're all people who were never Trumpers or who were Democrats are saying we can't live with this. We can't. So this could be the biggest blowout you've seen, man.
I think you're right. I think we're headed there. The polls are beginning to indicate it. If the polls were anything like last time, and I think they are to a certain extent, especially when you know that if you're identified as a Trump supporter, you're liable to get killed now. Okay? It's not just they're going to beat you up and take your hat. You know, these people are carrying guns and forcing us to carry guns, and pretty soon, I don't know what's going to happen. What do you think, JP?
Well, I mean, at least in the previous campaign, Hillary at least had a stance on some stuff.
Yeah.
Biden's campaign is anti-Trump.
Yeah, it's pretty much anti-Trump, and they're reversing a lot of things based on the polls. For example, they didn't mention the riots for 3 months. They pretended they weren't happening. Barack Obama at the Democratic Convention. These are peaceful protests as Trump is sending stormtroopers against pregnant mothers and children. How dare he? You know. And meanwhile, CNN reporters were doing shows about these are peaceful protests, and then in the background you could see the buildings burning in downtown Portland. Okay, so
there was
just
a peaceful protest.
Lisa, you got something to say, or you just yes?
You have a couple
No,
more.
they were peaceful protesters.
Yeah,
When they were
right.
done, there were pieces everywhere of that city.
All right, listen to me. Stay on the line because I want Lisa's got some Facebook questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or
So Betsy commented again.
Yeah.
And her problem is that the country is so consumed by hate for Trump that we may be overlooking the much bigger picture. If what this virologist is saying is true, then that truly was an act of war, not only on our country, but the world.
that's why I'm making such a big deal out of it.
Hashtag very scary.
I'm making a real big deal out of it. Okay.
And then George says that the one thing that needs to happen is DOJ has to come out and say the lockdowns are illegal. If you think that these liberal leaders aren't going to try to lock down these cities and states again prior to the election, then he has some oceanfront property in Arizona to sell you.
Really? Wait, I might be interested.
And it's not going to stop there.
Yeah.
No.
It's going to continue on, and this is what's scaring people, is they're talking, the leaders are, that they're going to continue this after the election.
Yeah, exactly.
So, people are
if
nervous.
Donald Trump wins, we're going to have a civil war. If Joe Biden wins, we're going to have a civil war. I don't see any way out of it. The two sides are too violent, and the left side has started this race war. It's getting a lot of blacks killed. Black Lives Matter is a communist organization who don't care about black lives. They're using them as props. The occasional black who is killed by a cop, which is not justified. It's not any more than whites. It's less than whites. Do they get hassled more? Yes. Is there more crime in black neighborhoods? Yes. So you got to take a lot of that into consideration and not let people do it. All right, listen, I got to go. Okay?
Right.
Thanks,
Take
buddy.
care. You bet. You have a good week.
Yeah, you're welcome back and drive
Thank
through.
you.
All right, thanks.
You bet.
Bye-bye. Hi there. Welcome to the Dave Weinbaum Show. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Dave, it's Laura Loomer.
Laura the Illuminator. All right, let's play her song. And ladies and gentlemen, on the phone with me is a woman who has as much guts as President Trump. She's a former investigative reporter. She is the people's choice to run as a Republican against the evil BFF to Nancy Pelosi. Please welcome Laura the Illuminator Loomer. How you doing, Laura?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm following your campaign, and I'm trying to do. I'm not very good at parlay or whatever they call it yet, but I'm trying to make comments on your stuff. And but I'll try to. Honey, would you get with me on parlay and teach me how to do that? Never mind.
I don't have that down yet.
You don't have it down either. Hey, as Lois Sides with Black Lives Matter and the Jew hating from them and Israel, the loathing squad or squid, as I like to call them. Are you making headway with the Jewish community versus Lois, Laura?
Definitely, and Shana Tova to you and all your
Shana Tova to you too.
Rosh Hashanah. Yeah, so I definitely am getting a lot of a warm reception from the Jewish community. It's the first time in U.S. history where two Jewish women are up against each other for a congressional seat, and it's really a classic Jew-off, I guess you could say, where you have a Republican Jew up against a Democrat Jew. And Lois Frankel has refused to condemn BLM. She's standing by BLM. She is mentoring members of the squad who harbor anti-Jewish and anti-Israel feelings. And,
hey, what's her take? What's her take on the Abraham Accords?
Yeah, so Lois Frankel didn't even attend the Abraham Accords. Of course, you got this peace deal, this miraculous peace deal that President Trump has been able to orchestrate. And when you had Netanyahu and this deal between Israel, the UAE, the U.S., and Bahrain, Lois Frankel was nowhere to be seen, and other Democrat Jewish members of Congress attended, but Lazy Lois, as she's called, was nowhere to be seen.
So what is Lois thinking about when she's trying to ban you? Like, you don't handle bans well? I mean, she sounds like she's petrified of you. And she's petrified of the truth
exactly
you bring.
What's happening.
Huh?
She's never had to really run a full campaign in her life before, and she ran unopposed in 2018, and now someone is giving her, the fight of her life. And so instead of just, debating my ideas, she is calling for my ads to be banned.
Yeah.
So she's been retweeting calls for my advertisements that call out her refusal to condemn BLM.
How can this be popular in your district? How can, after beating all those Republicans, after they tried to cheat you out of it, and they did, how can she try to ban you now? I don't get it. What kind of a strategy is that?
That's the Democrat way, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but I don't know.
You can't beat them, silence them.
Yeah, all right. Well, I think that bodes well for you, I'm thinking. What's the average Jew there thinking? We got this gal who's very popular in Israel, and you are very popular in Israel. And I talked a lot about you with the Rabbi last week. They're running news stories about you. They're following this closely, and I hope there are some in Israel who have dual citizenship from your county who can vote, and I hope they're doing.
Well, there's over 300,000 U.S. citizens who live in Israel.
Yeah, and I hope a bunch of them. I hope there are thousands that can vote for you in your district. They have to be in your district to vote for you, right? Or do they? Laura, you there? Laura? What happened?
She lost connection.
Okay. Hello?
We got disconnected.
I don't know how that happened. JP?
I didn't touch the thing.
I know. All right, so that's fine. Well, how do we get back so quickly? That's
hold us back.
Oh, okay. So let's talk about the Dems, what the Dems describe as a distraction, a business deal that doesn't bring peace. Let's talk about the Abraham Accords, and as evidenced by Hamas bombings and Palestinian protests. Do they nominate two Nobel Peace Prize for distractions? I mean, did Lois comment on the?
But that's what Nancy Pelosi is calling this. Of course, it's a distraction.
Yeah.
They never want to give President Trump credit for anything. Of course, Barack Obama. I don't know why he even was awarded a Nobel Peace Prize, but
let me tell you a little secret. Let me tell you a little secret about that. Neither does he.
Yeah.
He has no idea.
Yeah.
So
it's driving the Democrats mad that President Trump has been nominated for two in 1 week.
Yeah, and wait till the other Arab nations come in. The biggest question is, which Arab country is going to turn it down? I mean, the reason is Trump has ignored the Palestinians, who deserve ignoring for the way they've handled themselves since 1948 and before. And the other Arab nations are falling in, and which ones are not going to fall in? They're all going to fall in, except for maybe one or two. And then the pressure's really going to be on who? It's going to be on Iran and the Palestinians, and I think they might come into the deal too. This is an incredible move. It's an incredible chess move that nobody saw.
No, it's great. And the Palestinians have already unsuccessfully convinced they haven't really convinced the Arab League to denounce this. And so generally speaking, they've been able to, over the years, to get the Arab League, as you mentioned, on their side. But the Palestinians are standing alone in this one.
So old man Biden gets his carcass out of the basement, and he votes live, in person. And old woman Pelosi goes and gets a hair appointment in a otherwise closed salon in San Francisco, and she's not wearing a mask, as has been mandated. So don't you think by those actions itself, it's okay to vote in person?
Yeah, it's definitely okay to vote in person. But look, the Democrats are utilizing these coronavirus lockdowns and mask mandates to steal the election. Okay, right. There's so much hypocrisy coming from the Democrat elite. Okay, they have their secret salon appointments while they try to penalize salon owners. I mean, wasn't the mayor of LA just a couple of weeks ago talking about how he was going to shut people's water and electric off if they dared to keep their businesses open? But, Nancy Pelosi can go in. Just another classic case of rules for thee, but not for me, which is the Democrat mantra, of course. And look, people have had enough of this. The American people are not stupid. They see right through these Democrat lies and their manipulation tactics, and they're going to be voting Republican.
The latest is
every day who have been lifelong Democrats or independents or people who have never voted, and they're tired.
The latest is the mayor of Nashville. I forget his name, but he had phony information about the COVID cases in bars, and it wasn't even close. Like they were maybe 22. He was talking about 500, and he knew it was a lie. And that's what he was using to close down these places, and he's been outed now. I mean, they want to rip him apart, not just kick him out. They're so ticked off. Kept all these. I mean, think about that. That's country music capital of the world, and a lot of these guys in country music own bars where they play, and they're ticked. And I wonder about the safety, quite frankly. So people are finding out. What the hell is De Blasio doing in New York, and Cuomo, and Chicago, and places like that where it's them run. People are catching on. You're right, I think. So, what's your prognosis? What do you think? Where are you going from here? And are you aware and are you prepared for how they're going to cheat you?
Yeah, look, we are very aware of issues of voter fraud, and that's why my campaign, and I know the Trump campaign has been taking paying a lot of attention to safeguards, and there's been a lot of efforts to safeguard the election, and it's not something I take lightly. But we have a really strong ground game, and we're out talking to voters every single day. We're out knocking doors, and from what I'm seeing on the ground, people have had enough. People have had enough, and people who have never voted in their life or who never really cared to vote are voting for Trump.
You're an expert in this because you did. You spent your earlier career fighting this and fighting it against people in person. Comey, Keith Ellison up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Ilhan, Rashid Tlaib, people like that. They're all scared of you. I personally don't know why they run from you. They're just scared of you. Just when you as a bully, the best way to fight a bully is to face him, go eye to eye, toe to toe. I've always thought that, and you do that. And that's just incredible, and I think that's why you're going to win. Because the bully, you can see the fear in their eyes once you turn and look at them. And they all did that. Keith Ellison ran away from you like a little child. Okay?
Yes, he did.
Oh, my gosh.
So did Omar, and so did Talib. They're not used to people confronting them.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, right, the squids, as I call them. All right, well, listen, other than DaveWeinbaum.net, where can people find you and contribute to you? And I am a contributor, by the way.
You can go to LauraLoomerForCongress.com. That's LauraLoomerForCongress.com, and that's where you can sign up for my emails and notifications and make a donation today.
You know, Laura, a plumber put glue on my toilet seat. I had him arrested. The charges stuck. Ladies and gentlemen. Oh, good. I thought you were going to do the crickets on that one. Ladies and gentlemen, Laura the Loomer, Luminator. Thank you so much, Laura. Stay in touch. If there's anything I can do, let me know, okay?
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
And Shavatona. Shana Tova.
You too.
Shana Tova.
Bye.
Yeah, Shabbat Shalom. I don't know. What the hell am I talking about here? All right. In a couple minutes, we're expecting somebody, I think. We'll see if he shows, Bill Hardick, and call the show. I got a couple extra minutes. Let's play what we got. How many we got left?
We have 4 left. Actually, 4 left.
All right, play the next two.
Okay.
How's that? There you go.
Doesn't believe this. They believe in censorship. Censorship does not make us wiser. It does not make us better informed. If it did, we'd be speaking Russian right now. The Soviet Union would run the world. It would have worked. But instead, the Soviet Union is extinct. It collapsed under the weight of its own absurdities abetted by censorship. And that's the most basic lesson of dictatorships, all of them. Anything built on lies falls apart over time. Unfortunately, dictators never see it that way. Dictators care about power. Anything that stands in the way of their power must be crushed. Watch Facebook leader Mark Zuckerberg back in April explain that any challenges to the party line on coronavirus will be censored immediately.
If someone's spreading something that puts people at imminent risk of physical harm, we take that down. We don't allow that on Facebook. There are also other misinformation that may not lead to imminent risk of physical harm, but still isn't the type of stuff we want to be spreading through our system.
So in July, Facebook and Twitter took down a video on the news site Breitbart of several practicing physicians, frontline doctors, pointing out that hydroxychloroquine could help coronavirus patients. Listen carefully to what the doctors say in this video.
This is a treatment regimen that's very simple, and it should be in the hands of the American people. The difficult aspect of this is that at the moment, because of politics, it's being blocked from doctors prescribing it, and it's being blocked from pharmacists releasing it. They've been empowered to overrule the doctor's opinion. I'm in favor of it being over the counter. Give it to the people.
That's true. Our authorities aren't pro-choice when it comes to hydroxychloroquine, and it's true that many practicing physicians have used it. But Facebook declared that video could not be allowed. You were not allowed to see it because those claims constituted dangerous misinformation, which, irony of ironies, was itself dangerous misinformation.
So how many lives were lost because Facebook and Twitter and Google all sided with the anti-hydroxychloroquine crowd about its efficacy as a drug to help people who have COVID-19? How many of them died? How many of them would have lived? Kind of goes against their own rules, doesn't it? And where is the criminal culpability of that?
Well, that's the whole thing, is that as long as they keep trying to run it and run their agenda, they're not going to be held accountable for that.
Yeah.
I bet, Joe Biden somehow wins, they're not going to look into all. It's going to just go away.
Yeah.
It'll be gone forever.
Yeah. All right. So while we're waiting on our next guest, why don't we play 8 and 9 and get it all done? What do you think?
In doing that, in censoring that information, Facebook was its most honest. The video was dangerous. It was dangerous to the same elites who view democracy as a threat to their monopoly on information. Give it to the people, the physician says in the video. Nothing could be more dangerous to Silicon Valley than democratizing access to the truth, something they believe they have a monopoly on. Alphabet, which owns the search engine Google, a monopoly if there ever was one, and the video sharing site YouTube, same thing, is even more protective of its complete stranglehold on information, which it has. In April, they took down a video from Dr. Dan Erickson. He said he was being pressured to indicate that patients were dying of coronavirus when in fact they died because of other causes. Many physicians have said that. He also cast doubt on the need for universal social distancing. Here's what he said specifically. Watch.
We aren't pressured to test for flu. But ER doctors now, my friends that I talk to say, it's interesting. When I'm writing up my death report, I'm being pressured to add COVID. Why is that?
Count the number of lectures you've received from Democratic politicians and tech executives. We need to let physicians decide between a woman and her doctor. Oh, no, not in this case. You can't see that. By the way, if they're willing to take that off the internet, if they're willing to censor that, prevent you from seeing it, what are they going to do with election results a month and a half from now? Think about that for a minute. YouTube said the video you just saw must be censored because it, quote, explicitly disputed the efficacy of local health authority recommended guidance. Notice they didn't even bother trying to claim that Dr. Erickson was saying something false. No. They just said he contradicted guidance from unnamed bureaucrats in the government. Talk about state media. This is what state media looks like. Demanding you must believe some unelected bureaucrat from the state.
Pretty well ties it up, doesn't it?
Yeah, and here's the thing. They all want to get on us because Fauci has been inconsistent with his speeches, but then now they're going to get the medical experts just because it's against their narrative.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to give you something to do because I know my last interview is supposed to be here. He's not here. Would you look on the messages in my phone under Bill Hardwick? Maybe I left him the wrong time to be here. That's happened before. It doesn't happen often, but yeah, why don't you do that? And if it is, in fact, at 10:45 a.m., why don't you give him a call and find out what the hell's going on, okay? And maybe we can do it over the phone. Do you see where I've contacted him?
I'm trying to look for it now.
Yes. Okay. So while you're doing that, you can call the show, 573-578-2700, doing that in organized fashion, right? And do you have any other questions, darling?
Not yet. I'm just now thinking Gary on Twitter. I'm just now getting to Twitter. So
you just getting to Twitter?
I just now am, yes.
All right. Hi, Gary. How you doing, buddy? All the people out there, push the show. Paige, Gary, eavesdrops in. You got them?
Well, the previous messages were deleted, so there's nothing in here about exactly show time or when you're supposed to be here. So
I know what it was. It's on Facebook. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So there's no real way to check that.
I can.
Yeah, why don't you check it out on messages, my messages and Facebook.
Now, we could try to call him, too, if you want to do that.
So, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to do that.
Okay.
I'll call him. Yeah, go ahead and call him. Yeah, we could probably set it up for next week then. Why don't you take care of that? And if he's, I might have made a mistake, and people make mistakes sometimes. I used to get real excited about this, real excited, but not anymore. I got plenty of stuff to talk about, and more than willing to do so. But I will take callers too. All right, so the main reason that the Arab countries have come to the table is that Trump killed Soleimani. And is he on?
I can't tell.
All right. And okay. And that's incredible. That's what a major general said on Fox News, is that they feel they can trust the Trump administration. And they're probably thinking that this is going to last a little longer, which means that they're confident that Trump will get reelected. And they know that the Obama administration did not have their interests at heart. They went all Iran and all Palestinian. They wanted the state of Israel wiped out. And so they laid off because they knew the Obama administration was basically anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian. Not necessarily pro-Arab, but pro-Iran. So the Trump hosts Bahrain and the UAE and Israel in a peace deal, and nobody covers it but Fox. They hardly mention it. It wasn't even in Drudge. What happened to Drudge? It used to be pretty good. So, anyways, there's a phone call.
Hey. Yeah, this is
Bill.
This is Bill.
Yeah, Hi, Bill. Did I screw up or what?
Yeah. I don't know. I had 11:45.
Oh, okay. You know what? I do that sometimes. I'm sorry.
I see September 25th.
Huh?
I see September 25th in the messages.
September. What is today?
The 18th.
Oh, you know what? I'm all screwed up with that. Anyways, well, I apologize. I'm very sorry. We could do this over the phone just as easily.
Yeah, that's great.
All right.
And I'll post it later on. Yeah.
Let me introduce you. Yeah. All right. My fault. Me bad. That's why I had him check before I didn't get excited. I didn't blame him right away. I didn't devastatingly say why that.
Do we need to put a calendar up there right next to your clock?
Okay, I screwed up. All right, I'm admitting it. Isn't that enough? I mean, have you called the nursing homes and made an appointment for me already? Is that what it is?
Not that you know of.
Oh, Bill, I don't know what to do here. I might need an attorney.
That's a good
by the
boss,
way.
right? Takes responsibility.
Yeah.
Or it could be my fault.
Let me.
Me too. But I might have wrote it down wrong.
Let me introduce you, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome an attorney, Iraq War veteran, and he's now running for state representative in Missouri's HD. What is that? Home district?
House district.
Oh, House District 122. Please welcome Bill Hardwick. There you go. Well, you got applause. So, give him another round of applause because I feel like I got to suck up now. So, Bill, you're a candidate in Missouri's House District 122 to replace Steve Lynch, who is limited out. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. In Missouri, we have term limits, and his 8 years are coming up this year.
And you're a constitutional American from top to bottom, from what I read. How would you fix the attacks on those who want to go to church and refuse to wear masks?
Yeah, so I think that the government can institute public safety rules, right? There's a legitimate function of the government to say, hey, this is a health issue. But what they can't do is single out churches, right? And so the federal court case out of Kentucky sort of confirms that jurisprudence, and the bar has been pretty consistent about that you can't have one rule for movie theaters and for casinos, for sporting events, and for bars, and have a different rule for churches, right? COVID doesn't know it's in a church as opposed to a bar. And,
what does it say to you when they seem to lean towards the bars and not the churches?
Yeah, that's right. And so I love Justice Gorsuch's dissent in the Nevada case, where he talks about maybe the entertainment business is better for religion, but there's no universe where the Constitution protects these commercial enterprises, but it doesn't protect religious assembly and religious expression. So it's not that and I think I can imagine a disease that's has a death rate of Ebola that's highly infectious, and maybe there's a legitimate function for the government to introduce some safety protocols there, right? I mean, that makes sense to me if that were the case.
Well, that is legal. That's constitutional. For example, the initial lockdown, which was an emergency, that's constitutional. Is that correct?
I tend to agree with William Barr that it's probably the second one in the list of the biggest civil liberties intrusions. Can you confine somebody to their home?
Yeah.
Now, whether or not the government has that power, I mean, you can think back to Korematsu, right? Which is probably our latest Supreme Court jurisprudence, where during World War II, FDR interned Japanese Americans, right? And we have a national emergency, and the Supreme Court upheld that. And even though they upheld that, and that's the jurisprudence on the books then, in constitutional law, we widely consider that an example of when there's fear and there's crisis, the government does something which they would woefully regret later on, or that people would come to resent after they think about it in retrospect.
And the government can keep doing it. The government can keep claiming this and control us altogether eventually, can't they?
Yeah, so that's part of the idea of the Constitution, right? So I do think that, and the idea of the state, the nation state, is it has this function where it protects its citizens from outside threats, maybe from internal threats, but that's a function, right? People don't want to be murdered, they don't want to be invaded, they don't want to be brought captive by a foreign state. Okay, that's a legitimate function for government.
Sure.
But part of our compact in America is we develop this Constitution that says there are some boundaries about what the government can do to your life, right? The First Amendment, what you can say, how you decide for yourself, what you believe about God. The Second Amendment, your ability to possess arms, right, to have arms to protect yourself, due process. And then just the idea that Congress's powers are enumerated is also a limitation on their functions, right? That there's a list of things they could legislate about and no more. And those are all protections and safeguards that uniquely were put into the American Constitution to protect citizens from what was the state of the world for thousands of years before that, right? Which is a government that had absolute power and could inflict absolute tyranny on its citizens.
There were kingdoms, basically.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, kingdoms, or tribal chiefs and things like that. So, talk about our kids in school and the challenges teachers and students and parents have.
Well, I appreciate that the schools are in a catch-22 and that parents are in a catch-22, right? So if they have one course of action, they send their kids to school, the kids might get sick, their kids might experience, this time of turbulence right in the school district. If they keep their kids home, they miss out on social development. There's some important cognitive benchmarks that kids can miss out on. And then maybe that parent has to stay home, right? They can't work and help keep their kid, engaged in the virtual learning process. So I appreciate the schools in a catch-22 that they're trying to stay open. They're trying to keep, their school district able to function. I appreciate the parents are in catch-22.
At least in one district, and I forget where it was. It could have been L.A., it could have been somewhere else. There's a conspiracy to keep schools closed until the election.
Well, I did see some of the groups, the educational associations and unions in LA had some kind of absurd demands to reopen, right? That related to Black Lives Matter, political points, and related to Medicare for all, stuff like that, right? And that stuff had nothing to do with student safety. It had nothing to do with whether or not those kids are getting good education. I mean, it was nakedly political. And so I did see that, and I did see that in some of those places like Los Angeles. The school closing became hyper-partisanized, and not what it should be, which is what's best for these kids, what's going to work for these parents and these kids to have the best possible future, given all the volatility we have.
Hey, how important is it to make it easy for employers, of which I am one, to hire and not have an underclass funded by government?
Yeah, so that's super important. Economic growth, widening our tax base, more people working, more people having an opportunity to get better pay, better wages, work their way up the career ladder, solves a lot of problems economically for our state. So, as you know, revenues dropped down during COVID, right? Income tax revenues. And as you know, I don't know if you know, but we had a little over $1 billion, like $1.1 billion in our unemployment trust fund in Missouri, and we depleted that by about half, right? Mm-hmm. I think we're spending on average of $50 million a week in unemployment claims. And eventually, if that goes to zero, we borrow from the federal government to restore our unemployment obligation, then Missouri loses this employer and employee actually sort of tax credit. So everybody's payroll taxes go up if we start borrowing from the federal government. Right. So it's really important that we keep that solvent, right? Sure. And the only way to do that is for people to go back to work. We also increased our expenditure requirements in the Missouri Constitution with Medicaid expansion, right? Education funding is a crunch. And so really, in my mind, the way to solve that is not to just increase spending, but it's to increase more people succeeding, paying taxes, businesses growing, right? We need small business to thrive for our state to be healthy. And the way to do that, in my opinion, is to give them certainty in taxes, low taxes, regulations that make sense, that are not overly burdensome, but that are digestible, right, and that are reasonable. And make it so it's easier to hire people, less red tape, right? Simplify the payroll tax process.
No, you sound like you're a miniature Donald Trump. Let me ask you.
Well,
that's a good thing, in my opinion.
His own person, right?
That's a good thing.
He's his own man. I'm my own man.
So no, I think you're your own man. Yes, but I think you have a lot of the same policies as Donald J. Trump. And then now I want to ask you what I meant it as a compliment. What are your thoughts about Antifa, Black Lives Matter, Wasn't Trump well on his way to actually fixing some of the problems in the Black, Latino, and Asian minorities by moving U.S. companies back and providing high-paying jobs for them?
So first of all, I'll take it as a compliment because President Trump, I do have a lot of overlap in policies, right? And what we think a good policy is.
I meant it that way, too.
Not just a group, but everybody, right, in the country. So, and speaking to that, I think his policies were benefiting everybody broadly, right? Not just targeted at a group or interest group. I mean, if the small business tax deduction, the 20% you take off your small business, benefited every entrepreneur in this country. That's just not people that have big corporations. That's everybody who started a car detail company or started a restaurant or started a law firm or whatever, right? Anything you started, you were benefited, and it made it easier for you to make a profit, which was a good thing for our country. That's probably one reason we saw employment numbers go up and unemployment numbers go down.
Right.
So my opinion on Black Lives Matter and Antifa. All right, so first of all, the Constitution, which is one of the greatest documents structurally for government and human history, it's pretty clear that we should not treat, and it's unconstitutional to treat one group one way and another group another way based on their race, based on their religion, based on these other categories that the courts have spelled out, right? And we don't want our police to do that, and we don't want our government to do that. That idea of non-discrimination and equality before the law is not contradictory. It's not mutually exclusive to the idea that if a business owner builds a business over 30 years, they don't deserve to have that business burned to the ground. That a person should be able to walk down the street without being assaulted or attacked or assailed for their political beliefs or because of their refusal to adhere to a certain political agenda, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not contradictory with the idea that police officers don't deserve to be shot. They don't deserve to be accosted. They don't deserve, if they're shot and seeking treatment in a hospital, to have people chant that they hope that they die, right? Mm-hmm. All those things are things that I think most people reject. When I talk to voters, they're pretty upset about it. I mean, almost universally in our district. And I think that whole system, right, that whole idea of, we don't want violence. We want people to have different political beliefs and not be, held at the threat of violence to conform to political beliefs. We want to have the good things about America to be preserved, right? The freedom of America, the constitutional values of America to be preserved. Those are all things values we can adhere to, and at the same time we can adhere to the value that there should be non-discrimination in government, right? That there should be rules and safeguards on the way people are treated by their government. And I think that it's a consistent viewpoint to believe all those things. And where I differ from maybe the Black Lives Matter national organization, not the idea, not the slogan of it, but the national organization, and Antifa, is that, racism is wrong, and racism, we should reject that whenever we see it, right? But what I think those groups do is they take the distancing, the rejection of racism, and they use it as a vehicle to say, you have to agree with what we want you to agree with, or you'll be a racist. And I think a lot of people reject that, right? I think a lot of people are savvy enough to go, no, in my mind and in my heart and my actions, I could reject discrimination, I could reject racism, and I can also reject Marxism. I can also reject, tearing down the family. I can also reject violence against police officers. I can also reject, a violent crowd saying, agree with us or we're going to hurt you. And
so I can put you down in the category of you are against defunding the police. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think the police are underfunded.
I'm not overstating that, am I?
No, you're not overstating that.
Okay.
I'm against defunding the police.
Good.
So pick your political agenda that BLM has or Antifa has. I'm probably against it. Except that I wholeheartedly reject racism. I wholeheartedly reject discrimination. And that's the nuance that I want to make.
And the problem is that the Black Lives Matter was founded by Marxists, trained Marxists, and it's not about Black Lives Matter. It's about the overthrowing of our government and making this into a Marxist communist country. And Antifa, I don't know what the hell they're for. I think they're just for tearing it all down. Am I wrong?
No, I don't think you're wrong. I mean, so that's what the individuals who sort of manage and founded the national organization have said, that the agenda is Marxist, right? So I don't think you're putting words in her mouth. I mean, that comes directly from the organization.
Yeah.
And what Marx said in the Communist Manifesto was that there was this impossible oppression, right, that had to be removed through force and violence, and removed through, when he teamed up with Engels was like, hey, let's have violent insurrections, let's obstruct the law enforcement, let's tear down the government, and in the wake of this...
I've got one more question. Who does Biden call when he has trouble with his hair?
I don't know. You stumped me on that. I'm not
sure. Well, I think I have the answer. It's a plumber who specializes in broken plugs. Ladies and gentlemen, Bill Hardwick, veteran of the Iraq War, mind you. This man has defended this country overseas, and I appreciate you being on the show, and good luck in your race in HD 122. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks very much for your time, Dave. Yeah, thank you.
All right, maybe we'll do this again. Thanks. Bye-bye. All right. Other than JP watching a basketball game on his phone, busted. What was happening over there?
Well, we actually had another call on the phone while Bill was on. I don't know if we want to try to call him back. Or...
Yeah, sure. Go call him back. Anything else on Facebook? Hello? Are you home, honey? What are you doing? Are you playing?
I'm in deep concentration.
He's watching a basketball game. And what are you doing? Playing solitaire or something?
No, I am stalking your Facebook page.
Stalking it?
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. Stalking? Wow.
I'm reviewing.
All right, so
comments.
That's a review.
I'm calling back. This is probably a guy who wants me to pay a bill. That's what I'm guessing.
We already had one non-show call already.
I know. Well, I'm using my own personal cell phone, which I use for a lot of purposes. I guess they're not going to. Well, just leave it. Hello, this is the Black Lives Matter organization. We have a little beef with you.
I'm sorry, the person you were trying to reach has...
Thanks. We tried.
I guess they don't want to talk to us.
Okay, listen, it was a fun show. I got a lot of stuff in there. I know some people think I have too many interviews, but boy, we had some real interesting people on the show. You got to admit that. Having Laura Loomer on the show, very special. She doesn't need Dave Weinbaum right now. I believe she's on her way. And she still remains a friend to the show. It tells me a lot about her character, quite frankly. And it's all good. So I want to thank my callers, all the people that pushed me on Facebook and Twitter and Facebook and all the rest of them, including Google. I want you to straighten your butts out and stop this censorship now, because there will be repercussions if this gal is credible, and she seems awfully credible. That's Yang, Dr. Yang, out there in, who knows where she is. She was in China, but she's in hiding right now. Go ahead, JP.
Yeah, she's, according to that interview, she's somewhere in America now. She came over, so.
Good.
Probably hiding still.
Well, I would be hiding if I had her knowledge, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah, I probably would too. But just as a reminder, you can go back and watch this on Facebook.
Yes.
And at a later time, you can also go to daveweinbaum.net.
Yeah,
and then anywhere that podcasts are located as well.
Where would give examples?
Okay, so you got Apple Podcasts, you got Spotify, any of those like that.
Cool. All right, honey, you got anything to say?
Gary says howdy.
Howdy, Gary.
On Facebook.
No, I said that already. Didn't I respond to that? On Facebook?
No, I was on Twitter the last time.
Oh, on Facebook. I didn't. You know what? I don't have any contact with him on Facebook.
That's what I'm saying. He's
offer him a friendship.
This is a new thing.
All right, Gary. Thanks a lot, buddy, and thanks a lot to all those who pushed the show. You guys have a great weekend. Remember, we're getting close to election time now. It's not the time to remain silent. It's a time to fight back. Don't let the Dems get away with anything. Get people out and about when it's time to vote. Don't count on your vote if you voted by mail. Don't count on it. Show up at the polls and make sure that vote was counted. And if not, vote there. That's what Trump says. It makes sense to me. All right, have a great weekend. This is the Dave Weinbaum Show. I'll be back again. What?
The 25th.
The 25th. Okay, so I got two things wrong. It was the wrong day. Because that would have been too bad, because I thought I had to play in a golf tournament on Monday in St. Louis. So not good. All right, so, okay, so old age, whatever. I still think I'm pretty sharp, don't you? Don't answer that.
Marty says Happy New Year.
Yeah, well, thank you. Happy New Year. Shana Tova. I can't remember.
Yeah,
baklava, whatever it is.
With baklava instead of challah.
Wait, from Shana Candy. That's candy, baklava.
It's a dessert.
That sounds like she's a pole dancer. I know she's not that.
It's a flaky dessert.
Yeah, I think they actually sell it at a couple of restaurants here.
You just called her flaky, a flaky dessert? That's terrible.
No,
Anyways,
that would be you, honey. You're flaky.
We'll be back again next week with another edition of the Dave Weinbaum Show. Have a great weekend.